the random pile of flyers, the big pile of receipts, the endless pictures that you have on your phone. These are all examples of things that we might have accumulated after coming back from holiday, and they're so easy to lose track of. So I thought I would showcase a few things I like to do after coming back from holiday, which was in this case spending Christmas and New Year's in London and Scotland. Now, when I filmed this sort of original intro, I was also feeling a bit sick, so just bear that in mind. Alright, so we got back from our holiday to London and Edinburgh, and unfortunately, just as we got back, we were sick for around 5 days, so now that I'm finally feeling a bit better and ready to start cleaning up a bit, so now I thought I would share a few random things I like to sometimes do after certain holidays, starting with, very oddly, the plastic bag hanging over here. Now I use plastic bags a lot when traveling for things like keeping your laundry separate or your shoes, etc. So since I use them often for things such as laundry or keeping dirty shoes separate from the rest of it, I like to first make sure that all the dirt, dust, etc. in there is all emptied out first, and then I leave them somewhere like here to air dry for a few hours or maybe even overnight. And then now I will put them into the right spot. Okay, and this is where I keep all those sort of plastic bags, so anything that was used not for laundry, dirty shoes, etc. I'll just simply give it a quick pull and put them here. And then all the bags that were used for laundry, dirty shoes, etc. get placed in here. And so that way they're separate, so then I know to grab one of these for the dirty shoes, dirty laundry, etc. So that was one random thing. And so the next thing I like to make sure to do is take out all the sort of travel cards, like for example an Oyster card that we used in London, and then put them back into that travel card related spot. And then don't forget to also check your codes and empty those out, because I'm pretty sure I left an Oyster card in here, which voila, there is. So anytime we travel to a country, I'll check if there's any sort of travel card that we can use for that destination. And then this is sort of small container with all leftover currency. So for example, you go to a different country and you have to use a different currency, but you just have a small bit of change left, then sometimes you can then give the rest to a friend in their country or something like that. But if you forgot to do that, then here for example, it's just the leftover British pound. So next time we go to London or anywhere in the UK, I'll just quickly try to remember to take that with us. Right, those are all cleaned up. Now time to put these away. Okay, now next up I decided to give these bags a clean since they were looking a bit dirty. Now obviously I don't do this after every holiday, as that would be quite a bit of work, but this duffel bag for example looked like you could use with the clean, and I kept this handbag quite often on the floor in the tube or in the streets, etc. So I thought it'd be a bit nice if it was cleaned again. So now time to scrub them a bit and then give them a rinse. And this toiletry bag was also starting to look a bit discolored at the bottom, so I wanted to give it a clean again. Okay, so I just finished scrubbing all of these, so I think it'll be more useful to rinse them in the shower. And I also want to clean something else, so I'm not going to drain the bathtub just yet. And now the next thing that I like to try to put away properly into the right spot as soon as possible after coming back are all these sort of extra maps, flyers, booklets, etc. that you get from museums, the city, exhibitions, etc. Because I feel like with these things it's so easy just to chuck them somewhere in a drawer and then forget about them. And then you find them years later thinking, why did I ever keep that? So first, make sure that you have any duplicates and just pick the best one out of there, because you don't need 3 copies of a National Museum of Scotland. And then sometimes I might add a few notes to it depending on what it was, saying things like maybe if I want to go there again or what I liked about it, or any tips for the next time that I go there, or maybe someone else goes there and I can tell them, oh yeah, go to this exhibition but focus on this area. If I, for example, add that as a note onto this one. And now I can add this onto the area where I keep all this sort of extra flyers, booklets, and things like this. Okay, and now as for the last two things, unfortunately I won't finish them before I finish this video, but I just thought I would share a few things as I'm in the process of getting through them. So I'm a big fan of tracking finances, and I like to keep the sort of day-to-day spending separate from the whatever we spent on holidays. So throughout the time there, whenever possible, I would collect all the receipts in this pouch here, and then occasionally at night, if there was a bit of time left over, then maybe I would go through receipts instantly on that night from what we spent that day, but then you know how it goes. Oftentimes you get quite tired by the time you come home at night, so I didn't get to do that too much, unfortunately, throughout that. So after coming back from holiday, I like to, as soon as possible, try to make a head start on it. With these things, the longer you leave them, it might be a bit harder to remember certain information about them. So in order to get started, as I know it can be quite hard to find the time to go through things like this, is I like to break it down to smaller tasks of, say, maybe just go through 2 to 4 receipts every day until it's done. So that's what I'll be doing since the progress I've made so far. So as I'm going through them, I like to separate them into 2 different piles. So this is the pile of receipts that I've already gone through, and then at the end they can be thrown out. But I just like to keep it until the very end in case I need to double check something or I maybe forgot to go through one of them thoroughly. And then another small pile of just things that I might want to check again. So for example, if I need to take a picture of a receipt for something that might have a warranty on it, then I'll just keep that until the end. Right, so I grabbed my iPad just to give a brief overview of how I like to organize these receipts on the sort of holiday spending tracking. So at the beginning, I simply just use Apple Notes for it. I might move it later on to something like Excel, but I'm not the best Excel user. So at least just for the beginning, I like to use Apple Notes because you can keep it quite simple. You can just add a few tables here and there, and it's also quite easy to use. And before I get started on going through the receipts and adding them all onto here, I like to first just put them in the order of the date of the receipts. That just makes it a lot easier to go through and to eventually add them onto here. And then for each day, I'll just go through it and then add the restaurant name, the address, the date, and then what we spent on. And then at the end, I like to just add a brief little review. I won't add a review for something basic that you always go to, for example, a Starbucks or McDonald's, but for something like a new restaurant or a cool cafe or a cool shop, I like to just add a quick little review at the end, because I find that it's nice to sometimes look back at that, or if you have some friends who might ask, hey, I heard that you went to London and Scotland, do you have any recommendations? Then you can go to that list and then give them your recommendations. So I have just a few more to go through, and then this task should also be done. And now one of the last things that I like to slowly work on after a holiday is sorting through or organizing all the pictures. And again, I find that that's one of those areas that's so easy just to leave in your phone. And then next thing you know, you have 200 plus pictures in your phone, and then maybe you have 20 pictures of you in front of a monument when really you only needed one of them. So just like with the receipts, I like to break it down into something much more manageable and much smaller, which will make it a lot easier to go through. But before I get started going through all of them, I just like to make sure that I have all the pictures gathered onto one area. So I transfer all the pictures from my phone and my boyfriend's phone onto my laptop. So just a little quick reminder for if you went on holidays with someone else, maybe see if you can also get their pictures, because sometimes you might find that their pictures are a bit better than the ones that you took. And then once I have all the pictures gathered into one area, then I'll start slowly going through all of them by saying something like going through maybe 5 to 10 pictures a day. And I find that by breaking down into smaller tasks like that, just makes it a lot easier to not get overwhelmed by all the pictures and to just focus on one thing. As for one example, maybe that morning I'll look through all the pictures of me in front of the Buckingham Palace and then decide which ones I want to keep and which ones I can delete. And then once I finish going through all the pictures, I like to add captions to certain pictures, depending on if there's something that I might want to remember about it. Now there's one final task that I forgot to go over earlier, and that is that after each holiday, I like to look at if I brought back anything special with us and to take a picture of that, because I like to keep up with a sort of inventory list of our items. As for one example with this tote bag. Now I feel like tote bags is one of those items where somehow over time you just start to have a big collection of them, and most of them will probably end up being just really random ones that you even forgot how you got them in the first place. But this is an example of one that we bought from a beautiful bookstore in London that I really wanted to visit. So this kind of just reminds me of our Christmas holiday in London, the beautiful bookstore, the fact that we don't really often buy items like that, so I just took a picture of it and made sure to add a little caption to it. And I also typically like to add the price and the date that we bought the item. And the same goes for this Scottish Santa ornament. We randomly stumbled upon a sort of Christmas store in Edinburgh, and it sort of made this new idea for us that maybe if we go traveling, then we can buy some kind of ornament if we see one of those stores. And so I just added that as caption to this picture to make this a bit more memorable, so that it just helps you in several years remember a bit about why it was perhaps special to you in the first place and where and when you got them. Alright, so those are some of the things I like to do as soon as possible after coming back from holiday, as I find that the sooner you get started on them, the easier it is to keep track of them and to probably organize them. So let me know what you like to keep track of after coming back from holiday. Do you organize your pictures a week later, a month later, a year later, maybe even never? And I hope that this video gave you some ideas of things that you might want to consider organizing after you get back from holiday. I think tonight I want to continue organizing the pictures a bit more, as I didn't get to do that the last few days. But besides that, I want to thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Adios.